نوفمبر عام 1917.
On November 2nd, 1917, Britain's Foreign Secretary, Arthur Balfour, wrote a brief letter promising his government's support for creating a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. That marked the beginning of a century of conflicts and wars that would forever alter the fate of Palestine and the entire region. 108 years later, Britain's Prime Minister Keir Starmer stood before the world. On September 20th, 2025, before the cameras, announcing his country's recognition of the State of Palestine.
I state clearly, as Prime Minister of this great country, that the United Kingdom formally recognises the State of Palestine.
As your chairman has reminded you,
The British recognition carried special symbolism. No other nation has played a more decisive role in the modern history of Palestine than Britain itself.
it is nearly 16 years since he recruited me to the Zionist movement.
Under the 1916 Sykes-Picot Agreement between Britain and France, Britain took control of Palestine, placing it under military rule, just as it did with other parts of the Middle East. A year later, Balfour confirmed in his letter to Lord Rothschild, the wealthy British Jew, that his government viewed with favor the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. The Balfour Declaration was not just a letter, it reflected a clear colonial policy. Britain had also promised independence to the Arabs, in return for their support against the Ottomans, a promise that was never kept. In 1920, Britain formally declared its mandate over Palestine. As the de facto authority, the British allowed waves of Jewish immigration into Palestinian lands. The resulting anger led to massive uprisings in cities like Jerusalem, Jaffa, and Haifa, culminating in a Palestinian revolt in 1936 that lasted 3 years before being brutally crushed by British forces. Following that, the British Peel Commission, after investigating the situation, recommended dividing Palestine into 2 states, one Jewish and one Arab, concluding that the mandate system was no longer sustainable due to the rising conflict. On the eve of World War II in 1939, a British white paper sought to calm both sides. It announced the support for establishing an independent Palestinian state where Arabs and Jews would live together within 10 years. But both sides rejected the plan. It satisfied neither their ambitions nor their fears.
Keinen Mut, die mehr zu zwingen vermag, dann wird unser Wille und unser Heil.
The outbreak of the World War made Palestine even more volatile. As the Nazis tightened their grip on Europe's Jews, migration quickened, until Jews made up nearly 1/3 of Palestine's population. In 1947, Foreign Secretary Ernest Bevin handed the matter to the United Nations, announcing Britain's withdrawal from the mandate.
The resolution of the DUC Committee for Palestine was adopted by 33 votes, 13 against, 10 abstentions.
Under Resolution 181, the UN voted in favor of partition. The Jews accepted it, while the Arabs rejected it. In 1948, Britain withdrew as an occupying power, leaving behind a land already in flames. Soon after, on May 14, 1948, the State of Israel was declared. And the Nakba began. Over 750,000 Palestinians were forced from their homes in the war that followed. During the Suez Crisis of 1956, Britain joined the tripartite aggression against Egypt, but its failure showed the world that Britain was no longer the dominant power controlling the region's destiny. The United States had become the global superpower instead. In June 1980, European nations, including Britain, met in Venice, Italy, and issued what became known as the Venice Declaration. The declaration was a pivotal moment. For the first time, the West collectively affirmed that the Palestinians were not merely refugees, but a people with legitimate political rights. The Oslo Accords of 1993 revived hopes for peace in the region. Britain supported the negotiations and financed the emerging Palestinian Authority. It seemed the Palestinian state was finally near. Yet, as settlement expansion and repressive Israeli policies continued, optimism quickly faded. In 2014, the British Parliament voted by majority to recognize the State of Palestine, but the vote was purely symbolic. The government refused implementation, insisting on a negotiated solution first. Yet, public pressure keeps the issue alive in London. For many Britons, it has become increasingly clear that their country bears a historic responsibility. In 2023, Palestine faced another pivotal moment as Israel launched its ongoing assault on Gaza following the events of October 7th. Tens of thousands of Palestinians tragically lost their lives in Israeli strikes, and many, many more were injured in this ongoing conflict. More than 80% of the Gaza Strip was destroyed. The new catastrophe in Gaza and Israel's repeated refusal to heed ceasefire calls placed immense pressure on Western governments, some of which finally decided to recognize the State of Palestine. Britain was among the first, and its decision was seen as the most significant and symbolic. Keir Starmer's declaration came more than a century after the Balfour Declaration. Britain, once the source of Palestine's wound, had now recognized its statehood. But the question remains, will that truly be enough for a Palestinian state to rise?